It was a quiet afternoon in the small town of Hollow Ridge when 34-year-old Daniel Carter decided to take a shortcut through the woods. He had lived in the town his entire life and knew the area like the back of his hand. But that day, the forest seemed different, quieter, almost unnerving. The birds weren't chirping, and the usual rustle of leaves was absent. Daniel brushed it off, attributing it to the changing weather. Little did he know, his life was about to take a terrifying turn. As he walked, the ground beneath him suddenly gave way. One moment, he was on solid ground. The next, he was tumbling into darkness. The fall seemed to last forever, the air rushing past him as he plummeted deeper and deeper. When he finally hit the bottom, the impact knocked the wind out of him. He lay there for a moment, dazed and disoriented, before realizing he was in a sinkhole, a massive, gaping chasm that had opened up without warning. The first thing he noticed was the smell, damp, earthy, and slightly metallic. The second thing he noticed was the sound. It was faint at first, almost like a whisper, but it grew louder as he strained to listen. It was a voice, soft and eerily calm, saying, "Welcome, did you fall too?" Daniel's heart raced as he scrambled to his feet, his eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. The voice came again, this time clearer. "Over here." He turned toward the sound and saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a man, older and disheveled, with a long beard and tattered clothes. His eyes were wide, almost unnaturally so, and he had a strange, unsettling smile on his face. "Who are you?" Daniel demanded, his voice shaking. The man chuckled softly. "Name's Henry. I've been down here well, I've lost track of time. But you're not the first to fall, and you won't be the last." Daniel's mind raced. What was this man talking about? How long had he been down here? And why did he seem so calm? Before Daniel could ask any more questions, Henry gestured for him to follow. "Come on, there's something you need to see." Reluctantly, Daniel followed Henry deeper into the sinkhole. The walls were jagged and damp, and the air grew colder the further they went. As they walked, Henry explained that the sinkhole wasn't natural. "This place, it's alive," he said cryptically. "It calls to people, draws them in, and once you're here, there's no way out." Daniel didn't want to believe him, but as they ventured deeper, he began to notice strange things. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, as if breathing, and the ground beneath his feet felt unnaturally warm. He also noticed markings carved into the stone, symbols he didn't recognize, but that filled him with a sense of dread. After what felt like hours, they reached a large cavern. The sight that greeted them took Daniel's breath away. The cavern was filled with people, dozens of them, maybe more. They were all in various states of distress, some sitting silently, others pacing frantically. In the center of the cavern was a massive glowing pit, its light casting eerie shadows on the walls. "What is this place?" Daniel whispered, his voice barely audible. Henry's smile widened. "This is where it keeps us. The sinkhole. It's not just a hole in the ground, it's a gateway. And once you're here, it doesn't let you go." Daniel's mind reeled. A gateway to what? And why were all these people here? Before he could ask, a low rumbling sound filled the cavern. The ground beneath them began to shake, and the glowing pit grew brighter. The people in the cavern started to panic, their cries echoing off the walls. "What's happening?" Daniel shouted over the noise. Henry's expression turned grim. "It's feeding time!" Suddenly, tendrils of light shot out from the pit, wrapping around the people closest to it. They screamed as they were dragged into the glowing abyss, their cries cut short as they disappeared. Daniel watched in horror, frozen in place. "We have to get out of here," he yelled, turning to Henry, but Henry just shook his head. "There's no escape, not from this." Determined to prove him wrong, Daniel began to search for a way out. He climbed the jagged walls, ignoring the cuts and bruises, but every path led him back to the cavern. It was as if the sinkhole itself was alive, twisting and shifting to keep him trapped. As the hours turned into days, Daniel began to lose hope. The sinkhole was a living, breathing entity, and it had no intention of letting him go. But just as he was about to give up, he noticed something. A faint glimmer of light in the distance. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Summoning the last of his strength, Daniel made his way toward the light. The journey was grueling, the sinkhole fighting him every step of the way, but he refused to give up. When he finally reached the source of the light, he found himself staring at a narrow crevice in the wall. It was just wide enough for him to squeeze through. With one last look at the cavern behind him, Daniel crawled through the crevice, the light growing brighter with every inch. When he finally emerged, he was back in the forest, the sun shining down on him. He collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air, his body trembling with exhaustion. The sinkhole was gone, the ground solid beneath him. It was as if it had never existed. But Daniel knew better. He had seen things he could never forget, things that would haunt him for the rest of his life. When he returned to town, no one believed his story. They dismissed it as the ramblings of a man who had lost his mind. But Daniel knew the truth. The sinkhole was real, and it was still out there, waiting for its next victim. If you found this story touching and inspiring, please like the video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you next time for more uplifting tales.